Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. Today's episode is a mega video of every riser I have ever made. You guys have been asking and requesting for this video, having all of my risers compiled into one easy location for you to find. So here you go. I hope you guys enjoy this. If you like crafting, DIYs, dupes, hacks, thrift flips, or just creating in general, I would love if you would consider subscribing. If you like any of the risers you see in today's video, remember to hit that thumbs up. But let's go make some DIYs. This is one of my most favorite risers ever. I found this wall hanging at Hobby Lobby, and you can see here how it has the little detail to hang on a wall. It was $22. I got it at 50% off, so it was $11, but it's absolutely beautiful. And I have these little candle cups that I got at the little wood section there at Hobby Lobby as well, but I'll see if I can leave a link down in my description box to find these on Amazon. But I'm just going to turn this into a riser. I thought it would be so beautiful. So I'm just taking my needle nose pliers there to put inside of my little candle cup. And I'm just going to paint these the same color, or as close as I can get to the same color as my actual tray that I'm going to use. And then since the tray itself is distressed, I am going to distress the little feet here so that way it matches and gives it one nice look. I just want to point out that you should always just look for shapes of things that you like. And if you think that just try it. I had no idea how this would end up looking, but I love it so much. And I'm just taking some E6000 and some hot glue, and I'm just putting these feet evenly spaced around the base of this on the back side, so that way it will stand up off of the counter. And then as you can see here, I'm just making sure that all of my glue is cleaned up because you don't want to see any of that seeping out anywhere. I thought this piece was absolutely beautiful when I saw it. I just didn't have anywhere in particular in my home that I could think of to hang it. So this way I still get to use it in my home and enjoy its beauty. Here it is all decorated with some decor. Let me know what you guys think of this one. I think this is so high end and it is so simple. And it is so awesome to be able to take a piece that you love and be able to convert it into something that will work for your home. I'm taking these two little signs that I got in the Crafter Square at Dollar Tree, and I'm just removing the twine from each of them. And then on one of them, I just want to cover the holes. So I'm trying this little method of using some hot glue in there and just kind of scraping that off. You can use spackling, whatever you would like to do to cover in those holes. In fact, if you decided you didn't want to, that's up to you. And then I just have this beaded garland that I also got at Dollar Tree, and I am just running a bead of hot glue around the edge here, you can see. And then I'm just going to lay these beads one by one all the way around the perimeter of this oval. Now I was one bead short from having this completely come together, so you could space this accordingly or just kind of measure it out in the beginning. I did have some extra beads, so you may need 2 strands to do this if you really want to be exact with it. And you can just kind of see that bead fit perfectly in there. And then I just go around the inside of it with some hot glue to help make sure these are all adhered really well. On the top layer, I'm just putting some glue around the whole perimeter here, and then I'm just going to turn this over and set it on top of all of those beads there, and then the beads are sandwiched between these two little oval signs. Now, yeah, I can use these little same beads from Dollar Tree, but I had some bigger ones that I wanted to use, a little bit chunkier beads, so it's up to you what size of beads or how you want to do your feet on here. But you want something to kind of rise this up off your surface, so I'm just using some hot glue to glue these in. I just kind of space them accordingly. Now I just paint mine a white color. You can stain it whatever you want to do, and I am just taking my emery board and roughing up the front part of all those beads that are exposed there. And then I'm just going to dry brush some mineral chalk paint on there, and I also go over with some white to kind of give it a little whitewashed look over that distressing. I love how the texture and the detail came out in this one. This just screams farmhouse to me. I think it is so cute and it's perfect. It's like a staple piece that you'll use all year long in a lot of different decorating, and it's just a cute way to kind of display a little vignette. I absolutely love to make different risers, and I found this sign at Hobby Lobby. You can use any sign from Dollar Tree, even some scrap wood, but you can see here I paid about $5 for it. It was part of the spring clearance, and it does have this raised paint on it to kind of give it some texture or anything. Now, I'm not going to want that on my riser, so we'll deal with that in just a moment. But then I wanted to try something new for the legs. They had these like thread spools. These were just over in their wood pile section where all of their wood crafts were. So all I'm going to do is take a putty knife. You could just immediately go to a sander if you wanted to do that. I just had my putty knife handy, and so I thought I would try and scrape this paint off this way, and it actually works pretty good. I do still end up sanding it, so it just kind of depends on what you would want to do, but I'm just showing you how you would kind of turn an everyday sign that you might already have in your stash or something like this. Don't let it stop you from using it or repurposing it. So as you can see, that paint just scrapes right off of there, so I can make it all flush because I am going to want to set things on here. Now I'm just taking a sanding block and I'm going over. This is just to make it really smooth so that way you can have a smooth surface. You can see all of the paint dust that you get on there, so you want to wipe it off pretty good. It does kind of make a little bit of a mess. Now I'm just taking some black chalk paint to go over this. I go over just with one coat. I had some of these sponge rollers left over from a crafting night that I did with some friends. They weren't the biggest fans of these. I thought I would try it. It worked all right. I wouldn't like run out to specifically get these for any projects, but I had it in my stash. I thought I would try it. I know some people are really big fans of them though. So now for the feet, I do the same thing, just a coat of black chalk paint on all of the feet here, just to make sure that they're going to look cohesive here, and just go around them. I used kind of a dowel there to help me get around each of the feet to make it a little bit easier. Now I know everything comes full circle, and I've seen a lot of crafters start using this crackle medium. This is Folk Arts brand. There's several different type. I had used this like 15-20 years ago. It was kind of like all the rage, and I think it's, like I said, everything comes full circle, so it's kind of coming back in to try this type of distressing. Now I love to try different things on here, kind of change it up a little bit, show you all different techniques, so that's why I'm showing this to you. And it was kind of fun trying this process again. So you paint your base coat on whatever you want the crackle color to show through, and then you use your crackle medium. You can get it in a spray form, you can get it in this liquid form like I have, and you're just going to go over your entire piece. You do want to make sure that this crackle medium dries for the time that it says. So on mine it said about an hour, so I definitely let it sit for that time. Then you take your top color that you're going to use for your actual color. In my case, this is a riser. I wanted my riser to be white with the black distressing coming through. And when you're painting this on, you want to work quickly, and you want to make sure that you do not disturb the paint that you've already put down. So you're not going to go over areas that you've already placed your paint down, because it will disturb the process. And you can kind of see in that first area that I worked that the crackle is already starting to take effect and the reaction is starting to happen. Basically, as your paint dries, the crackle medium makes your paint kind of shrink. And so what happens is it starts to crackle, and you see that background of the contrasting color come through. Now there are so many fun ways and techniques that you can do with this method of different colors you can play around with. It is definitely fun, and I was happy to kind of see it come back, because it's been a long time since I've done this method, and I thought it was a lot of fun. You can see here that crackling, how it took effect, and I think it looks great, very chippy and very fun. So I did the same thing. I had put that medium on the feet and then did the same thing on those. Now on the back of my sign, it had these little D-rings on there. So I just removed those so I can place my feet on. And I'm just going to use a combination of wood glue and hot glue. The hot glue is just going to work as a clamp. It is totally fine to use the two glues together. There's not going to be any reaction that happens that's going to cause any problems. And so don't feel, just leave a little space of the blank wood for the hot glue to adhere to, so that way you can definitely get that bond and that clamping process can happen. And I just kind of used my finger up against the edge that was on the back of that sign there to help get it level. And look at what a cute riser this is. I mean, even with some scrap wood, this would be a beautiful project to make. I loved that it was just a sign. I just had to paint it and glue some feet onto it to make a simple riser. This is something I can use all year long. This summer, I'm going to use this out on my porch as a cute little accent piece. This DIY turns out so cute. Dollar Tree has these little nesting boxes in their crafting corner, and I'm using 2 of those, and then I'm just using a wooden dowel, or you can pick up a plunger at Dollar Tree and just use the handle on the plunger. It's made out of wood. You can use that for your wooden dowels, and it's sometimes a lot cheaper than getting them like at the craft store or hardware store. Now I have just cut my dowel down to the size that I want my little tiered tray to be, and which I think this is about 7 inches that I did, and I'm just using some hot glue and wood glue. Now I wanted to glue my dowel more towards the back of the box because I want more items to be able to fit in the front when I decorate with it, because this will be in a space where you won't really see the back of it. So keep in mind, if you want to decorate it all the way around, you might want to center your dowel a little bit more. Now just using some hot glue and wood glue, I just do the same process to get that top nesting box glued on. Here's just a bonus little hack for you. If you ever find little napkin rings, keep in mind of what you might be able to do with them. This particular napkin ring came from Hobby Lobby. The little pot came from Dollar Tree. I'm just using it to stuff in my little tiered tray. It looks almost like a little topiary there, even if you see the hole in the middle. But those little napkin rings, if you ever find those at any stores that you're traveling to, keep in mind of different things you can do with them on tiered trays because they're a lot of fun. Dollar Tree has recently had a lot of these wooden beads. You get them in a pack of 125 and it comes in all sorts of different sizes. So I'm just going to make a little beaded garland because I love hanging beaded garland from different things. It adds a lot of texture and I just think they're really cute. So I'm just doing a little pattern with a couple of small, then I do the next size up and then the biggest size. And I just repeat that pattern throughout the whole length of this beaded garland. If you're not lucky enough to find these beads at your Dollar Tree yet, keep watching for them, but I always have a link in my description box for ones that I like to buy on Amazon, so just keep that in mind if you can't find those. I am just using a galvanized tag that I also got at Dollar Tree, and I will just loop over my twine and feed that little beaded garland through there so that way it can tie easily onto. You can kind of tie that on however you want. That's just how I chose to do it. And then all I'm going to do here is just take the end of my twine, feed it up through a couple of the beads and cut it off so that way you don't have that little piece hanging out. You could always make a tassel for the other end of this, or instead of the tag, I decided just to tie mine off at the other end because it will be resting inside of the tiered tray and you won't see it. So I just tie a knot with that, and then I like to use a little bit of hot glue just to secure that knot. And I mean just ever such a small little daub of hot glue on there just to kind of make sure that knot is not going to come untied or anything in the future. Now I'm using some of these little rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree. These are some of their new Farmhouse line that they have, which are super cute. I'm just taking the word welcome and I just cut it down from that sheet because I can use all of those others and other projects that I have. And I like to just use a little wooden craft stick. These particular rub-on transfers go on very smooth and very easily. If you saw me use the foiled ones, I have not had luck with those, but these are very simple. You can see I just peel that back and it just comes right off and transfers that word welcome on there. And it's just something really cute to place in your tiered tray. I love to collect different types of coasters to use for DIY projects. I found these darling little farmhouse coasters at Hobby Lobby. I'm just gluing a couple of the tumbling tower blocks onto the bottom and it makes a cute little stand for my tiered tray. This little welcome sign turns out super cute there, and here is everything put together. I love how this turns out. It is so cute. It is very farmhouse and it is a perfect way to use those wooden beads and those little wooden nesting boxes from Dollar Tree. I always try and pick up these little packs of coasters when I see them on sale. I don't ever pay full price. I wait for them to be on sale, but they make the perfect little risers for tiered trays or even just for like a candle for your countertop or something. So I have these from Hobby Lobby that were from Christmas time. I got them at the after Christmas sales that they had. And I'm just going over it to cover up the wording just with some white chalk paint. However, you can see that wording, you can still see it there. So if that was to bother you, so what I decided to do here is I'm just using some spackling to go over that to make it all level. If you're going to put something on the top of this and you're never going to see that, or it's going to be on a tiered tray, you could probably just leave it. But I'm just showing you a way to get rid of that. So that way, if you decide to do something like this or ever run across those problems, just always kind of think outside the box of ways to solve those different little problems that you come across. After that spackling dries, I just go in with my file and I'm just going to file it off so it's nice and smooth and gives it a good finish and flat finish so that way things won't tip over when they're sitting on it. And I just go in and I paint with that same color of chalk paint over the spackled area. Now, just to show you really quickly, these are a couple of different coasters that I have used in the past to make tiered tray little risers, and they're so cute and so fun and so many different options that you have. For the feet for this little riser, super simple. I'm just using some wooden beads. I just put them on a barbecue skewer and then I am going to tape in between them. That way I can paint the top, the bottom. I can flip that skewer different ways in different directions to get all of the angles, and the beads won't run into each other, making a big clumpy mess. Since this is not going to get like heavy use or anything, since it is just probably going on a tiered tray or just holding something small on a counter, you can just use hot glue to put those beads on, and it's super simple, and you can see how good that looks right there. Even though this riser is small in size, I think it definitely adds a big impact. It really just gives you that fun little element with the little beaded detail on that, and just so simple. And this is so easy and honestly something that anybody can do. This project is a remake or a take on a table that I have made before. It is a tiered tray that is a potting, inspired by a potting table. It is one of my most popular DIYs, and I found these little pictures at Dollar Tree, and I thought they would be perfect because I've been looking for something to kind of simplify the process to make this table. Now, you could see the one was kind of falling apart there. I had to glue the sides together. These were the only two that I found in the Dollar Tree I was in that day. If you find these, grab them because they are perfect for this project. Now, I did remove the tin there, the little sign that said home. I believe the other one here says friends, it looks like. And you can hang on to those, use those for other projects if you want, trash them, whatever you want to do. But the glue did leave a little bit of residue behind, so I'm just sanding these. And this is just going to distress them, and it really brightens them up, and I love the finish that it gives. Painting them would always be an option as well, but you can see how bright these look. I love kind of the almost natural wood color that this gives. It's going to be perfect for our little potting table that we're going to make here. Now, I'm trying to keep this as much of Dollar Tree products as I can. I'm using some of the tumbling tower blocks. I want these to be the feet of my table, but I want them to be thicker than just one tumbling tower block. So I'm going to take some wood glue and hot glue, and I'm going to make them thicker so that way I can have a thicker base on there. You want to make sure to get these as even as possible so your table doesn't wobble at all. And I had started out using the clamps and realized I really didn't need to do that. I could just glue them with the wood glue and the hot glue and press them together really tightly with my fingers, and that would give me the bond that I needed. I would just have to hold it for a few seconds. I get asked a lot about using hot glue and wood glue together, and they're great to use together. It does not compromise either of the glue, the way that it adheres. The hot glue actually works as a temporary clamp while that wood glue dries, so it's totally fine to use those two together. Now, I want to have these have a very rustic finish. I want the two layers of my table to have that natural wood color, and I want my legs to contrast with a white color, and I will distress them with some antiquing wax as well. Again, you could paint this or this in any colors that you wanted. Now, where these are picture frames, you can see that I'm just removing that little sawtooth hanger on the back there. I just used some pliers rather than unscrewing it, and it worked great to get that off. And then you can see I'm just going in just very lightly dry brushing. So dry brushing is just getting your brush, putting a little bit of your paint or your wax on it. In this case, I'm using antiquing wax, and I wipe most of it off. So it's just very, very light as you brush it up and down. It's just going to give that little aged look. Where this is going for a potting shed type of vibe here for this table. Obviously, I want to look like it has been used. It's rustic, and so that's why I'm going heavy with my distressing on this. That's again just totally optional, just giving you some ideas of what you might like to do for your decor, but I feel like that very rustic look there really does add that farmhouse touch to it. Now, I'm just using some hot glue to glue my Jenga blocks here, the tumbling tower blocks, as my feet to the table. Don't worry, I will come back in and remove that little barcode sticker off of there. At one point, I realized that, I don't know, for some reason, when you get in the zone and crafting, you don't even realize things like that until, minutes later, you're going, oh, I can't believe I didn't do that. So now I'm just showing you that I cut some square dowels down, and you guys, I found some easels at Dollar Tree that would work perfect to use the legs off of that if you want to keep this all Dollar Tree. I cut mine to about 5.5 inches, rounded up to 6 inches. That would be fine. I was just trying to work with the length of the wood that I had. You could even go 5 inches. It just depends on how far apart you want your two levels, but I was just showing you that I did the 5.5 inches. Now I'm painting these to match those tumbling tower blocks. So I'll give each of these a coat of white paint. It takes about 2 coats, and then I will go back in with the antiquing wax here, as you can see, and I'm just distressing. I pay close attention to the edges of the dowels there because that's where you see that heavy antiquing wax come off of there, off of the brush onto the leg, and it really just makes it look dirty, which is what we're going for, right? It's a potting table, so we're going to go with it. And it just is that farmhouse look. And I really do love that chippy farmhouse style. These heat guns are absolutely fantastic to use with your putty knife to get those stickers off. You can see how easily those just pop right off of there. You just heat up that adhesive underneath those stickers. I just put my little putty knife there that I got from Dollar Tree, and it just comes right up. I did get this heat gun on Amazon. I'll link it below if you're interested in investing in one. I honestly didn't know how often I would use it because I always just used my hair dryer when I did crafting, but you guys, I use this in almost every single DIY. So if you're looking for something new to add to your crafting game, I would highly recommend one of those heat guns. So now I'm doing the same process with these square dowels as I did with our feet for the table, and I'm just using some hot glue. I just put a bunch of hot glue in the corners there, and then I placed those legs in, and that way I would get the bond that I needed to. Now, to have this glue to the top of our bottom layer, which you'll see what I mean here, I am using a little bit of wood glue with the hot glue to do this. The other table that I made, I did with hot glue. It has held up just great. So, I mean, this isn't going to get super heavy use. So I feel like the legs using just hot glue would be fine, but gluing it to that surface, this top layer to the second layer, I wanted a little bit more of a bond with that wood glue. So that's why I used a little bit of wood glue there. And you guys, look at how beautiful this table is. This is such a fun table. It's perfect. It's such a great and different take on a tiered tray. I get so many compliments on this table that I have. Like I said, this is a little bit of a smaller version of one that I made previous on my channel, but I get so many comments on this, and everybody just seems to love it because it's different than what you see everywhere. And I really think that it turned out beautiful, and you can use it all year long with all different seasons. I found this candle holder pedestal at the thrift store, and I thought it would be a really, really good piece to have. So I kind of thought about what I wanted to, like, how I wanted to paint it or what finish I wanted to give it. So I ultimately decided to cover it in complete white chalk paint all over. So it takes about 2 or 3 coats to completely cover it. Now, this is glass. It's not metal or anything. So it's not something that I'm going to like put outside or anything, but I wanted it to look kind of garden inspired. Like maybe it was like a piece of wrought iron that had been painted and then was like the wrought iron was starting to show through. So I'm just going in with like some elephant or some dark gray chalk paint to distress this. And it has a little bit of detail on the very top, like the lip around where the candle would sit, that really picked up that detail really well. And then all of the little ridges that are on the base of the candle holder, it really picked up that distressing well. And so I just kind of went in. You can always add more, so go with a little bit and keep adding. And then you can also add some white paint back over the distressing if you feel like you've added too much to tone it down if you want to. I really wanted to make a moss ball to sit on top of this pedestal, and in the floral accents section of my craft store, I found this little like wicker ball almost, and I bought this garland. It was on sale for 50% off, so it was $7.50. If I tried to think of some different ways I could actually make this, like get a form for this moss ball. This was the best that I could come up with for the price. So if you had something on hand already or came up with something else to use as your base, that would work too. But what I'm doing is I just zip tie the end of this garland onto what is going to be the base of my moss ball. And then I wrap it all the way around one way, turn it around and wrap it all the way the other way. So that way it's wrapped around twice and it is like crisscrossing, if that it all makes sense. So it goes like north to south and east to west. Once I zip tie both ends down to where the base of my moss ball is, I am just breaking apart all of these little teeny vines that are coming off and all these little stems, and I am just tucking them into the grapevine on the, or the wicker or the wire, whatever. It's several different elements that are there. So I'm just tucking it in as I go around to make sure that this is completely covered. Now I just picked a greenery, like a garland that had a lot of little leaves like this that would easily tuck in. So if you're going to recreate this, you're just going to look for something that has a lot of long stems that you can stretch around. So you can kind of see how that went all the way around there. Now I'm just taking some jute twine and I'm just going to tie it on the base there. And then I'm going to wrap this around several different ways, directions, everything to hold that moss down. And it also looks like this moss was, you know, that's what's holding it down onto the ball, and that was the look that I'm going for. And I go around maybe like 15 times or more. I mean, it's quite a few times that I go around. And if there's any pieces that are really sticking out that didn't get tucked in, I make sure that the twine is tucking those in as well. You can kind of see, I'll go back over and make sure that that goes on those. And once I get this as wrapped as many times as I want, I'll just cut it off and I'll return back to that place I designated as the bottom of my moss ball, and I will just tie it off in a knot there. And then I go back through, and if there's pieces that need to be tucked in under the twine, I do that. Or if I want to pull them out, because I want it to kind of have like a fluffy feel, I guess would be the best way to describe it. So I go through and you can kind of see me here, I'll pick some out. So that way the twine is a little bit buried inside of there, if that it all makes sense. This is the look once it's finished. I love how this turns out. I have seen these moss balls go for like way more than I paid. I absolutely love how this turns out, and I feel like it has such a good spring and garden vibe. I would definitely love to hear your thoughts on this one down in the comments. I am loving cutting boards right now, and they are all the rage. And I found this darling little decorative cutting board at Hobby Lobby when it was 50% off, so I paid $4 for it. I am not using this for food. It is strictly for decor purposes. And I have these cute little finials that I got on Amazon, and I will leave a link to those down in my description box, but we're going to use these as the feet. So I am staining them with just some antiquing wax, so that way they will match the cutting board. And depending on what cutting board you pick up or you're trying this with, you can paint your feet accordingly to kind of match, or stain them both to kind of be the same. So I just took that little leather handle off. I decided that I didn't need that, and I'll just use a combination of wood glue and hot glue and use my ruler, and I'm just going to space out where I am putting these feet so I can get them kind of as symmetrical as I can. One of the most common questions I get is about my rulers that I use. Guys, I did pick these up about 3 or 4 years ago at TJ Maxx or Home Goods, and I have not seen them since. But if I ever find anything close to this, I will definitely let you guys know and leave a link to them. But I'm just using this to make sure that I get those feet pretty well like on the same line, and that way it's not going to lean or anything when I place down this cutting board. But look at how absolutely darling this ends up looking with my little decor on here. This is so cute, and I mean really it just adds so much of a good element to lift these items up off your original surface. What do you guys think of this one? It's been a little while since I've made a riser, so I'm kind of excited to show this to you guys. If you're new here, I love to make risers. I make them all year long, and they're so fun to use in your decor. I have so many different ideas. I'll link some videos down in my description box if you want to see those. But I love that Dollar Tree has these little containers, and they have these little scalloped edge on the lid. I've made some of the bigger ones, but this is the first time I've seen these little mini containers. So I'm just taking a candle holder. You can use one that you have at home. You could use a wood one. You could use Hobby Lobby also sells candle holders like this. They're like $1 more or something than Dollar Tree when you get them on a discount. But I'm just going to paint both of these the same color so they match. So I'm just using some white chalk paint. And you guys look at these adorable little hands down here. This is my little boy that came down as I was making this, and he wanted to help. And I thought, well, how can I say no to that? So his paintings, this just shows you don't have to be perfect with this. But I let him paint both sides of it. At first I thought, oh, I'll have him do the inside. And then I was like, well, he did a pretty good job. So I do end up letting him paint when I turn it over on the surface that will actually show. But of course, on the bottom, it's not going to show that much because you're going to glue it onto the candle holder. So I'm just showing you here, he flipped it over and started doing that. And I think he did such a great job. And I just love that his cute little hands are here forever in this cute little video making this riser. And he'll remember making this. So that is kind of fun. You get to watch us do a little tag team here. So he's drawing the one piece while I'm painting the riser, and then we switch here in just a second. But it does take a few coats, maybe 3 coats of paint to get the coverage that you like, maybe even 4 depending on what kind of chalk paint you're using. So now I want this to really adhere. I don't want this to like fall apart or anything. I want it to be pretty sturdy. So I'm using some E6000 intermittently kind of around the edge of that candle holder. I'll even take a craft stick. I don't want this coming over the edge. I want it to look as clean as possible. So I'm kind of pushing it up and over onto the inside where that you won't see that portion because the container top is going to be glued to that. And then I'm just kind of spreading it out just a little bit, but I want to make sure I leave some of the area on the surface to put some hot glue because you're going to want that immediate hold. Now, you don't have to do the hot glue if you don't want to. You don't have to have that immediate hold if you're going to let it dry overnight. If you're impatient like I am, hot glue is your best friend. So I'm just going in the little areas I left open because you don't want to glue the glue. You don't want those two glues to mix because you will not get the type of hold that you're looking for. Now, on a piece like this, it probably wouldn't matter so much because it's not like this is going to hang on a wall or anything, but just keep that in mind when you're doing that. I see a lot of people like put the hot glue right on top of the E6000, and that compromises the bond that you're going to get. So just be careful with that. So I'm going around cleaning it up because I don't want any of that glue showing. So I'm just doing my best to clean that up with that stick and my fingernail. Now, I love to distress things. You don't want to sand this because you're going to reveal the red that's underneath there. So I'm taking some mineral chalk paint, even like a cashew, an elephant color, some antiquing wax. I just kind of wanted to go really light on the distressing, but the reason I wanted to do it is because I feel like it really makes those scallops around that container lid really show up. You can see the detail in them, so it kind of gives them a little bit more definition. And if you look at pieces that you buy like in the store and things like that, a lot of them have a little bit of distressing or some type of definition on the edges of pieces like that. So I really feel that's what's going to elevate your piece to the next level. I went even over the little ridges in the candlestick there. You can even go over the top of it with some more white paint if you feel like you get it a little heavy and lighten it up a bit. But here's the finished project, and I think it is beautiful. This is going to be, I mean, of course you can use this all year round. It's not just Christmas, but these containers typically only come out at Christmas time, so that's why I'm putting it right here in this video. But I love this, and I intend to use this all over. And you get two lids, so you technically can make two projects. You just have to have another base for it. What do you guys think of this one? And are you fans of the risers? Because I have so many more new ideas to do with risers. I was lucky enough to find one of these 3D hanging orb forms from Dollar Tree. They're just in this section where their wreath forms and florals are. If you do happen to see one there. I've seen quite a few different things to do with them on YouTube and Instagram. So here is my take on it. I'm going to make a little stand, like a garden orb stand. So you just go ahead and open up your orb, and there's some little hooks that allow you to fasten it open. And I take one of these candlestick risers from Dollar Tree, and then I just glue the orb onto the top with some hot glue. And then I take a wide mouth canning lid that I just happen to have just because I can. And so I'm gluing that on. That's going to make a base for my jar to sit on. So anything that you have that you could put there, I mean, you could even use foam core or anything that you had that was just fit perfectly, so I thought I would use that. And then I just used the Krylon matte black paint, and I spray paint the entire thing in black because it was just easier to do that than taping the base off. And I go ahead and I do go in and paint the white chalk paint on the base to give it a white color. And then you want to stain some beads that you're going to put around, and you can put those even in a bag to stain them. I had a commenter state that that's how she stained them, and I thought that's brilliant, so I'm gonna have to give that a try next time. So I'm giving this a faux rust technique, and any faux rust technique that you know how to do, you can go ahead and try that on this. I like to try different things. So I'm using a grocery sack dipped in elephant. I go between elephant chalk paint, and then I mix some truffle and Merlot together, and then I just dab that all over to just kind of start out that base of giving it maybe a galvanized rust look, if that makes sense. So I go all over with the sack, dabbing that to give it good coverage. And then what I'm going to do is mix in some orange and then some baking soda. I thought this would be the perfect project to use the baking soda with my paint to give it a little bit of a texture, since I want this to look like it's been kind of left out in the garden or on your porch maybe all winter long, and it's got a really good rust patina. I don't even know if patina is the right term, but that's what I'm going for. So I go all over, and as I go, I decide to use my brush and the sack. So I'll go in with my brush because that baking soda is pretty thick, and then I kind of will smooth it out with the sack. And then I take some yellow and do the same thing with the yellow. I mix it with a little bit of the rust color that I have going on my plate there, and then I use the baking soda and go all over until I feel like it's good. And then of course this just shows me giving a good coverage of white on the base. And then I do take one of the pots from Dollar Tree and age it with a little bit of white paint and elephant paint. Just give it a little bit of an aged, dirty look. And then I also take some of that elephant and I go around the base to give it a little bit of an aged look also. Then what you're going to do is take your beads and you're going to glue them into the space between the candlestick riser and then whatever base you've chosen to use, in my case, the wide mouth jar lid. You're going to go ahead and glue those in between that space with some hot glue all the way around. I do take some white chalk paint and dry brush on the beads to give them a little bit of a weathered look also. And then you'll just take whatever kind of plant you want to use to stick inside. I just went ahead and used one of these greenery balls that I had from Hobby Lobby. And here's an up close look at the rust on this. Now I've done a few different rust techniques if you've watched any of my last couple of videos. And I really do like the dimension that the baking soda gives. However, I feel like maybe I could have gone a little bit brighter with some of the orange on this one. But from a distance, I feel like it looks really good. It's the exact color that I want it to look. And I'm actually really excited to use this on my porch. Let me know in the comments what you think of this one. I encourage you to take a look at your clearance section at your local home decor store or garage sales, yard sales, or even thrift stores at the section where they have their pictures, because you'll find silly pictures that maybe you would never put in your home, but they have a great shape to them. And that's exactly what I'm using here. And I have these little candlesticks that I got at Hobby Lobby. If I have a link to them on Amazon, I'll put that down below, but that's going to be the feet here. So I completely intend on painting over that design. I don't really need a girl that's blowing bubble gum picture, but you know, it works for the shape. And honestly, this particular riser is the one I think I use the most in my house. So I just give it a complete coat of white paint, even over the edges there you can see, and then I will paint the feet as well. Obviously, whatever color you're going to want to paint yours, you're going to choose that. I just thought that the neutral white would look really good. And like I say, this ended up being one that I use more often than any of the other risers. I've had this one the longest, but I love this one and I use it all the time. Just make sure when you're painting the feet on this, or the legs, whatever you want to call it. They're so tall, I want to call them legs. But just make sure you get every angle, because when this is set up in your home, you will be able to see all sides of those feet. I just love how this one turns out. It went from a silly little picture to something that I use all the time in my home. So again, I just encourage you to think outside the box. Look for a shape rather than what the picture is on the front or something like that. What do you guys think of this one? For this riser, I just took a little candlestick riser from Dollar Tree and spray painted it. And I had this little wood round that I went ahead and sanded down. And I am going to make what traditionally would be the bottom of it, the top. So I just go over with some antiquing wax, and I really take my needle nose pliers and distress the heck out of this wood. I wanted it to look really aged, and I wanted the base of this to look like jadeite. And so I painted it with some pistachio spray paint, and I'll link down below the color that I use, so that way you can see that. But again, this is just a riser from Dollar Tree, and I'm just using some hot glue here, and I just glue this right on like this. And again, I have it so the little beveled edge faces down, and I love that. But I think this turns out so cute. It is so spring, it matches my jadeite, and it is so simple and easy. What do you guys think of this? For this particular riser, I wanted to do a theme kind of like a cake stand, so that's kind of what I'm going for here. So I am just putting these little wooden half beads into a Ziploc bag with some antiquing wax, and I'm just going to kind of like mush them around, judge them around, get them all covered and everything. I do just want to mention that I do use this in my kitchen a lot, but it is not food safe, so you just don't want to put food directly on it. Just lay like a napkin down or some tissue paper down or something like that. Just make sure there's some type of barrier between your food and the cake stand itself. So after I dump these beads out, I just take a baby wipe and kind of wipe the top of them so that way they're not very goopy at all. And I just take this little wooden round that you can find like at Home Depot, Hobby Lobby. Somebody told me that Dollar Tree Plus, if you're lucky enough to have one of those, sells these. So just whatever size that you would like. And I'm just using the antiquing wax to go over with a baby wipe and stain this completely on all sides. For the base, I am just using a wooden candlestick, and I'm doing a taller one because I did want this to be very high. And so you can get these at your local craft store. You can get them at home decorating stores, thrift stores, wherever. You might even have some just on hand. But I chose one that was a little bit higher because I wanted more of that traditional like cake stand height. So just a little bit higher one, I guess. Anyway, so I just stained this completely to match, so the base and the top match. And then to put these beads on, I just use a combination of wood glue and hot glue and just work my way around the entire outside portion of this wood round. After I get all those half beads glued on, I do go back over with a little bit of the antiquing wax and a brush just to kind of fill in any areas that it might have gotten rubbed off or didn't cover completely. And that way you don't see any of like the bare wood sticking through. That's up to you if you want to do that or not. I did kind of like the way that it worked. I do end up distressing this with some white paint, so I guess it wouldn't entirely matter, but it is just, I'm just pointing out that I did that step. So now I just use wood glue and hot glue to glue that base onto my cake stand there. And then I've got, you can see here, I'm going to take my white paint on a brush and I go around all of those little half beads there and then across the top to give this a very rustic look. I love how this looks. I use this all the time in my kitchen. It permanently has a home in my china hutch with various things on it. I don't always use it for food, but it is kind of fun to pull out when we're having get-togethers or something to use, just kind of to have a different level on our table that I'm serving from. Again, just have a barrier between the wood and your food itself. But definitely let me know what you think of this one. I love the height of this one. It definitely makes this piece, and I absolutely love it. Are you guys on Instagram? If you are, I would love if you would come and find me. I am Farm Charm Chic over there. I'll leave a link down in my description box so you can easily find me. But come and see what I'm working on. I post there quite a bit. I like to show you things that I'm working on or when I have videos ready. It's just another place to stay in touch. So if you do come find me, remember to send me a DM and say hi, because I do love meeting new friends. This particular riser can be done with any piece of scrap wood that you may have. If you don't have any scrap wood, they do sell little cute pieces like this at Hobby Lobby. You can see the $3.99. And then I'm just using my heat tool just to kind of scrape that little price tag right off. This will be the bottom of this, and it does have this cute little beveled edge on it, but it is a little bit rough. So I just kind of go over it because I don't want to get any slivers and I want my paint to go on fairly smooth over that. So I just smooth that and then wipe it down. Now I am going to be painting this all the same color, so I want to make sure that I have the feet on so when I paint it, I can paint it all together. And I'm just using some wooden beads on this. I'm just using a combination of the wood glue and the hot glue to get these beads on for the little feet on our riser tray. And I'm just going to, I left it sitting overnight. The hot glue just helps hold them in place, and that wood glue is what it gives it the really strong hold there. And then I'm just using kind of a spring green color. Whatever is speaking to you the day that you make yours is what color you'll want to do. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I really want to age this though. So once I get this completely covered with as many coats as I want, I'm taking just a chip brush with some antiquing wax, and you can kind of watch how I distress this. Now I know this may not be to everyone's liking, but some people do really like this. I just wanted this to look very aged and very weathered, so I am just lightly going across with that antiquing wax because I wanted to look like maybe this green paint was just paint that was like chipping away and you could see the wood underneath, or maybe it was just really grimy or something. But I go around all of the edges and everything with this technique. Before I pass my brush through again though, you do want to make sure that it's dry or it will kind of smear that wax, if that makes sense. So I'm very careful to kind of not go over the areas I have already done. But I'll let you just go ahead and watch and see kind of how I finish distressing this around all of the edges and everything. Here is this riser completely staged. What do you guys think of this? I know that distressing is not everybody's taste, but I am very happy with how it came out. I love it. It's going to be perfect, and I think it looks so cute right here, and I am just loving that color of green. I get a lot of comments on this particular riser. I use it a lot in some photos that I do when my little final reveals a lot, and I get a lot of comments on it whenever I use it. So I'm just taking one of these little hanging planter baskets from Dollar Tree, and I am cutting the bottom ring off, and then I'm just going to take an embroidery hoop, and then I have this little wood round from Hobby Lobby. So I'm just going to, and you could even use like a wood sign, like a round sign from Dollar Tree. It doesn't have to be those. That's what I had, so that's what I'm using. And I am going to take some wooden beads, and I'll leave a link for these down in my description box. I just buy them off Amazon. They're fairly cheap, and you get a ton of them. And I just go ahead and glue these all around one at a time. It takes a little bit of time to do this, but you do want to take your time and make sure that they're even and everything like that. Whenever I've seen like these little beaded trays like this at the craft stores or the boutiques or anything, like they look very well done. So you just want to take your time so it looks very high end. After you get all of your beads glued on, you're going to go ahead and stain all the beads. Now, I don't know why I did the inside of this, because I'm going to glue another piece onto this. You're never going to see the inside of it, but I guess I was just being an overachiever this day. But you're just going to stain all of this. I'm using an antiquing wax. Some brown paint with some water would do basically the same thing. You could do whatever color. You could leave it natural if you wanted, however you wanted to do this. But I do take my brush and I dry brush over that embroidery hoop as well, so that way it matches and it's all looking like one piece. To glue these pieces together, I am going to use this little square piece that I got in a pack of like 5 or 6 from Dollar Tree, and I just stain it also, so if you see it from underneath, that way it'll kind of blend in. And I'm just using that as a stability piece for this round topper that's going to go on here, so that way it doesn't kind of wobble or anything. It just adds a little more stability and a little more surface area to glue. So I did just trace out the square of where I wanted to glue it, so when I went to put it back on, I knew exactly where to put it. But how cute is this little riser? I just love this. I think this is so farmhouse. It is so fun. I think it's absolutely adorable. I love using it. So I am taking these little wood planks that I got from Dollar Tree. They come in a package of like 5 or 6 of them. So I am taking 4, and I am going to glue them together to make almost like a little box shape. I'm going to make a pillar. So this is kind of the main trunk of the pillar. And so I am just using some wood glue and then also some hot glue. And then to give it a little stability, I'm using a wooden dowel on the little, where the joints are, where they meet on the inside, so that way it has a little bit more surface area to glue. Then I'm taking two of these boxes from Dollar Tree that come with the little lid, and I am taking the bottom portion of the box, turning it upside down and putting it over that decorative portion of the lid, as you can see here. And I'm going to do this 2 times, so 1 for each end. And then I have some squares that come in a package of like 4 or 5 that I'm going to finish off the ends with. So I'll just put some glue on that and then glue the box lid to that little square. And so that's what's going to finish off the end of our pillar. And then I will go ahead and glue the pillar onto either end, or glue either end onto the pillar trunk or the base. I've also seen like some wooden pencil boxes or little pencil holders at Dollar Tree that you could easily try and do if you didn't want to make your own. I didn't love the size of that. I wanted something a little bit bigger, but I mean, that would definitely work if you want to kind of simplify this down even further. That's definitely an option for you. But like I said, I'm just using the wood glue and hot glue to give both that long-term and short-term hold on this. I wanted it to hold up really well. And then I'm going to paint mine. So you could stain it, you could paint it, whatever you'd like to do. I paint mine and then I go ahead and de-stress it quite a bit. You'll see how I do that here in a minute. But I'm just giving it a really good coat of the white Waverly chalk paint, or actually I think it's the plaster color. But whatever color you have or would want to do would work just fine. Then I start de-stressing this with my little file there, going over all of the edges, but then I take some wax, just the antiquing wax. You could also use any type of brown paint, and I just dry brush that. I'm doing a pretty heavy dry brush on here, and then I do kind of go back over it after that dries with a little bit more white to kind of tone it down, as you'll be able to see. And I love the way that this turns out. I love the tone that it's getting, but of course you can customize this to whatever. I know this style is probably not everyone's, but here it is as like a plant stand with a plant on it. I think this turned out so cute. I've used this all year long and I absolutely love it. This little riser ends up being so sweet and so cute in the end, and I use this all the time in my decorating. So I'm just taking one of these wood rounds. I bought this in a package of like 4 or 5 at the craft store, but I have seen these at Dollar Tree just on their own, and they also come in different shapes like squares, hearts, ovals. So use whatever you can find or whatever is going to fit your needs. These always come with a little bit of rough edges, so I do sand them down and then wipe it down, but I do take some needle nose pliers and I like to make a very distressed looking piece of wood. So I just kind of go over all of the edges. You can see all of my little indentations that I have made there. And then I'll just take a baby wipe and some antiquing wax to stain this. However, you just want to make sure that you can kind of see how all of those little divots are showing there, that you'll take some antiquing wax and saturate each of those little areas. You can either do that by, like I'm showing here, pouring the antiquing wax right on, or if you saturate your baby wipe, you just kind of will press down and hold it for 10 seconds or so to make sure that all of that wax goes down into those little indentation marks, because it just makes it look extremely aged, like it's been around forever. I got this little candle holder at the craft store when it was 50% off, so it was like $2.50. You may already have something in your home that you can use. I just loved the little color and the aging marks of it. And to affix this on there, I can use some E6000, so you can use that for a permanent hold. I actually just did hot glue because I wasn't sure how long I was going to use this. Guys, I've had this for over a year and I use it all the time. It's up all the time through different seasons in decorating. That hot glue has held really well, but you definitely can use E6000 for a more permanent hold if you would like. I think this turns out so beautiful. I love it. It literally just puts your items on a pedestal. I think it is so cute. I've used it a lot in tiered tray decorating and in my China hutch. It is so versatile. Let me know what you think of this one down in the comments. This is a sign blank that you can get at Hobby Lobby. I buy them when they're on sale, and you can see here the price there. And I did buy it at 50% off, so make sure that when you're buying these pieces, you buy them when they're on sale. And I'm just going to cut off the little hanging tab there. And I also go in with my heat gun and remove the price tag. And then these little staples here that was keeping our little twine stapled to it, I just take some needle nose pliers and I remove those. A couple of them gave me a little bit of trouble, so I just use my little weeding tool to help get underneath those. But I just take those off and then sand it down so it gives it a very finished look. Now I'm going to make a tray out of this sign, and I'm going to use these little feet here. I get these at Hobby Lobby in their wood section. I believe these do go on sale too. It's $5 for the bag, so if you can get these on sale, do, but you've got enough, you can do a couple projects out of one bag. So I'm just going to paint them with some white chalk paint to match the original color of the sign, but you could also stain these and do like a two-tone look, or really you could paint the base of your sign and the feet whatever color you wanted to match your decor. I just love taking pieces like this and making them your own. I mean, to buy a riser like this, you're going to pay a lot more than you would making it in this instance if you buy all of these pieces on sale. Plus, you get the satisfaction of knowing that you created something. So I'm just taking my emery board and I'm going to rough up these feet so that way it matches that really distressed, weathered look that the sign has there. So I just wanted it to look like it was a completely cohesive piece. So you can measure where you want to put these feet and mark them, or you can just kind of eyeball it like I did. I'm a big fan of that. So whatever works for your style. And I do use a combination of wood glue and with hot glue. So I just put a little bit of wood glue in the middle of each of these feet, and they're already cut off so they have a flat surface that's going to glue to your surface there. And then I just put hot glue on the outside, and again, just do this with all 4 legs, and it is that simple to make this tray. I just love this. This is such a stunning piece that is going to take you through every single season. How beautiful is this with just some everyday farmhouse decor on here? But of course, we want to see what it looks like with the Christmas items that we just made. This is a super easy and quick little thrift flip. I found this little winter Christmas candle stand at my local thrift store for $1, and I thought it would be perfect to kind of paint a basic color. I'm just going to paint it white and make a cute little riser out of it. I love to use risers in my decor. I have a whole video that is dedicated to risers. I'll leave a link down below if you want to watch that. But I take this little round from Dollar Tree, and I am taking off this little word that says family here. It is a very thin, there's no way I could have saved it for another project. And then I took all of the paper off, and then I sanded sanded this round down, and I sanded all of the edges to kind of soften them a little bit so it wasn't such like a harsh edge to it. And now I'm just taking some Mod Podge and putting this on the candle base there to help have the paint adhere to it. You could spray paint this. I was just out of spray paint, so I just decided to use chalk paint, and I just chalk painted them both in a basic white color here. So now I'm just going to use a combination of E6000 and hot glue to glue that round onto the base. I take my emery board and file the edges to give it a distressed look. I use a little mineral chalk paint, and then I go over it with some white to kind of dull it down a little bit so it's not super harsh. I love the stability of this piece, and I love that thick base with that round top on it. I think it's so cute. This will definitely get lots of use out of it. I'm always looking for different ways to do risers to raise things up high if I need a different level or something, and I think this will be perfect for that. I love these cute little signs from Dollar Tree that say "This is us," and they are so darling the way they are, but they are such a great shape to make some fun things out of. So I'm going to make a little tiered table out of these. So I'm going to remove these little hangers from the back, and then what I'm going to do is take this dowel. It's not a dowel rod, it's poplar square is what it's called. I want to call it a dowel, but it's not round. Anyway, I buy this at Home Depot. It was about $2 and change, and I measure 1.5 inches for the bottom feet of my table. So I cut one using my little miter box saw here, and then I use the rest of them, the little 1.5 inch legs that I do, to measure the rest of them with, if that makes sense. So then you can see all 4 that I have there. And then I'm going to go ahead and use wood glue. And then where the wood glue has an open space where I didn't put it, I'm going to use some hot glue. This is giving it that temporary and long-term hold. And so I'm going to show how I do this on all 4 of these legs, because the next legs that I do for the next level of my table, I do not have any footage for, and I apologize for that. So watch close how I glue these in, and I'm going to do this exact same process, just using a different measurement for the next set of legs for the table. So for the second level of this table, I'm going to measure up on my ruler how high I want it to be. And then I do take that poplar square down on my floor with my miter box and saw, and I just cut those down to size, and I glue those in the same way I glued those bottom legs in. Then I'm taking some white chalk paint, and I'm painting the whole exterior or frame of this table and completely covering it all in white. I am then taking these 5-gallon paint stir sticks that you can purchase at Lowe's or Home Depot. They come in a package of 3 for just a couple of dollars. And I'm going to measure where I want my tabletop to be, and I do take those to my miter box and saw and cut those down. Then I'm just using these craft sticks to go on the back to hold them together, and I am using the combination of wood and hot glue. I want this thing to be very sturdy, and trust me guys, it is very sturdy. And you can see how that sits flush with the top. So those pieces on the top go horizontal, and I wanted to change it up, and on the bottom do vertical pieces of wood. So I'm taking the gallon paint stir sticks, and I'm measuring where I need to cut all of those. And then I take those down onto the floor with my saw and miter box, and I cut those down to size. And you can see how I have to cut a couple of pieces, different lengths, like really short pieces, to go around the legs of my table. So I'm showing you how the top fits in that bottom and how the bottom will fit in. So I'm going to take this main piece of the bottom where all of those pieces can fit into one. I don't have to fit these like puzzle pieces around the table at all, if this at all makes sense. Just kind of watch what I'm doing here. And I'm going to glue the craft stick onto these to hold them together. That way they will fit inside of the legs of the bottom part of the table. Then I stain the top and the bottom layer of the table here, the tabletops, with the antiquing wax, and I just go around making sure that I have each of the edges and everything, because those edges are visible, making sure that it is all completely covered. Okay, now we get to attach the tabletops to our little tiered table. And I just, again, I use a combination of the hot glue and the wood glue. And you guys, this thing is so sturdy. It is not going anywhere. So I do the same thing with the bottom layer here. Just the wood glue and the hot glue for stability. And I lay that inner layer of that one down, and then you guys remember that game Tetris where you'd fit the little pieces in? That's totally what this reminded me of, but I fit these little pieces in around the legs, and I get this last little piece glued on here. And then of course I do just let this dry a little bit. And then I'm gonna take my emery board and I go in and rough those edges up. It doesn't really rough them up, I guess. It gives them more of a dulled, not so harsh look on all of the corners. And then I do take my elephant chalk paint and I go in and give this a really good distressing, if you will. So I know if not everybody loves distressing. I do. I really feel like if you found this in a potting shed, it would be pretty roughed up. And so I really kind of wanted to mimic that rustic look. But guys, look at how cute this is. When I started styling this, I got giddy inside. I was so excited. I think this is going to be so fun to change up for the different seasons, and just kind of a different take on a tiered tray. So it's not such an obvious tiered tray, if that makes sense, but you would still just use those little miniatures on it to decorate. What do you think of this? Let me know down in the comments if you've seen anything like this or what you think of this. This was the perfect craft my stash item for me, and I have a bunch of Hobby Lobby clearance items that I just keep a big bin of. You guys know I'm a big fan of checking out that sale section at Hobby Lobby, and I had this sign that came from there that was like, I can't remember what the price tag just said on there, $1.50 or something. And then I have this candlestick, which is concrete. It was very heavy, and I knew when I bought it that I wanted to do some type of riser with it. So I'm just showing you guys, look, I'm actually measuring something. I don't measure anything, so I really had to point out that I actually tried with this one. I just found the center and then traced around that. Now I have this big long piece of trim. This just came from my hardware store. You can just buy it down where the like your baseboards, they'll have like trim on that aisle too. And I've made several projects out of using this. So I just cut it at a 45-degree angle. I measured the size that I needed, and I did just use my handsaw. I didn't use like a table saw or anything to do this. I just used my miter box, like little miter box table saw. Hand saw, excuse me, to do that, which I'll have linked down in my description box because I love using that. So, and it's very simple. And then I just measured these to be a little bit less than what the sign was because I wanted them to be a little bit of trim here, because that is going to be the flat part of my riser. And then I just used some super glue to glue these down. Hot glue would probably work, but I just felt like super glue was going to give me a closer fit, and it was going to work a little bit better over time. So that was why I chose to do that. Now the sign has a little bit of raised text, and this is the type of super glue that I work with all the time. So I'm just showing either of these. Now the sign had a little bit of a raised area. I should have sanded that off, but I didn't realize at the time it was going to be an issue. So I'm just pointing that out now. Now I'm just using some E6000 and some hot glue in the areas where the E6000 is not. So that can kind of give me the quick hold, and then the E6000 can dry and give me the permanent hold. Now, of course, as I'm gluing this on right now, I'm realizing that I forgot to take the price tags off of the back. So I do go in and take that off so you can't see it, but remove that beforehand. But for some reason, it just didn't dawn on me until after I glued it down, and I went, whoops. So I spray painted this outside because it's finally warm enough to spray paint at my house. And I'm just showing that on these edges here, we're going to put some antiquing wax to get in all of the little grooves of those pieces. Now, those trim pieces are completely optional. If you don't want to mess around with having to go get something extra, or you don't want to cut anything, I get it. Totally optional, just a different thing of decoration. I just kind of love embellishing things in different ways. So you can see that I put a pretty heavy coat of antiquing wax on this trim here, and then wiped it off, so it just kind of helped pop all of those little nooks and crannies there. It kind of helps to see the detail. And then I do brighten up the top of it with a little bit of chalk paint dry brushing over it. And then here I'm just distressing the edges with some antiquing wax around the whole thing to kind of give it that aged look. So not just the trim was aged with the antiquing wax. So I just go around all of the edges. I also go around on the candlestick portion. I don't think I showed that on here, but I did do that. So look at how absolutely darling this looks. I think this is beautiful. I really think that trim sets this off. Now I really wanted to do something extra here. So to put on the top of it, I've seen like rustic metal pieces on the top of risers. So I bought this at the wedding section at Hobby Lobby, which is the best kept secret Hobby Lobby has for crafters, is the wedding section. Always check there. This was like, I can't even remember how much it said, $1.50 I think it said on this little tin bucket here. And I'm using just some regular like white vinegar, just the kind you buy in the big jug. I use it like in my dishwasher to help my dishes, and some paper towels. I'm trying to age this. I've never done this process before, so this was totally new to me. So I soaked all of these paper towels very liberally in the vinegar, and I am just putting them all around the metal on here. And I read this on Pinterest to do this. I've also seen some other crafters do this on a smaller scale with like safety pins and bells and things. And so I'm just, like you can see here, I'm just going to set that down. And I did this, was probably about noon that I put this on here. And I came and checked this. This is probably about 5 in the afternoon or the evening. And you can see how much rust is showing on here now and how it's dulled down that shininess on here. And I decided at this point that I want a little more rust. I mean, you could easily leave it like this, but I mean, this is like 5 to 6 hours or something. So I put it all back on, and then I leave it overnight. So if you really want it to be really rusty, do this and leave it for 24 hours and see what happens here. So this is the next day. I'm taking this out, and you can see the paper towels are showing like tons of rust there, and you can see how aged that gets. Now I think because I placed the paper towels so close to it that maybe if I'd let a little oxygen get in there, the reaction might have happened a little bit more on the things. But I mean, I'm extremely happy for my first time with how this came out, and it was such a fun process to do. It does smell like vinegar, so keep it in your garage if it's gonna bother you. Mine was just in my basement, and really I couldn't smell it unless I was right next to it. So I'm cleaning off the bottom because my intention was to glue it to the top of this riser. And this is what I would have used to do that, and some hot glue for the temporary hold, and then either super glue or E6000 for that permanent hold. But I decided not to do that. So I'm just showing you that that's how you would glue it on. But I thought the versatility would be much greater to leave it not glued to it. So here it is just on its own. It's darling. It definitely has that farmhouse look. I mean, I'm thinking next, I'm like, I want to get a big Rubbermaid bin to do this in with some watering cans or something. But here it is on top of the riser. I think it looks darling on there. What do you guys think of this process? Is that something that you would try? This is just a thrifted vase that I have, and I also have this little treat lid that came from one of the plastic treat containers from Dollar Tree, and I have various sizes of raised dot stickers that also came from Dollar Tree. To decide what size of dot I want to use, I just place them on each of the little scallops of this little tray that was going to be my tray, and I try and decide which size I like better. I ultimately decide to go with the smaller size. Once I put that on there, I can clearly see that that's the size that I want. So I just go through and place all of those on each of the little scallops. Now to get this little lid onto my vase here, I'm just using a combination of E6000 as well as hot glue, and then I will just do my best to find center of that lid and place it onto the base there, and then I will just kind of make sure that I have a really good strong bond there to let that hot glue dry, and then I will just leave it to let that E6000 dry. Now I just spray this with a little bit of white spray paint. You can use whatever color you would like. I just make sure to get a really good coat all over it, and those cute little raised dots I feel like look so cute, and so I'm going to do a little bit of distressing here, and I am just using some elephant chalk paint. You could do this in whatever color you wanted to, if you wanted to use like a stone color or something like that, so it wasn't quite as definitive or dark, I guess, as the elephant chalk paint, but I really loved how that looks on here. So I just go through and make it look really weathered and really aged. It makes those little dots pop. It makes all the little scallops have a little bit more detail. Again, this step is completely optional, but just to show you what it looks like, I even go through on the top here and give it a little bit of the distressing there as well. I think this little riser turns out so cute. I love to use this in my decorating. I love how those little dots ended up on there. It's just about using your creativity and looking for the shapes of pieces that you would think would make really good riser shapes and putting them together. It's so simple. Anybody can do this. I have a couple of these round frames. They actually came from my grandma's house. And the gold, I know gold's coming back in, but it's just not my style. So I thought, I'm going to make a little tray out of these. I'm trying to update my vanity in my bathroom. And I thought, I'm going to make a cute little fun tray to be able to set maybe my perfumes and lotions on, things like that, face cream. I don't know. I just thought it would be kind of fun, give it a nice little summer update, make it seem really bright and airy. So I have some Christmas tree garland that I have these wooden beads from. And I just cut some off, and I turn the frame upside down, and I'm just going in and I'm gluing each bead on. Now you probably could do a whole ring, like a line of hot glue, and then just kind of stick the beads on rather than gluing each individual one down like that. I was trying to minimize the look of hot glue in between the beads, so it helped a little bit, but not perfect, but that's okay because it doesn't bother me too much. I really wanted to use this oval piece from Dollar Tree. I tried so hard to see when I stacked it like that in between, when you looked at it from the side on, you could totally see the edge with the beads. I didn't love the way that it looked, so you can see my mind's kind of thinking. So ultimately I decided to go with the jumbo wooden popsicle sticks, kind of give it more of like a shiplap look, I guess. So I go in and I just trace each of these to the open oval space and cut them, and then I glue them down inside each one. Now you're never going to see the back of these popsicle sticks because it's going to be fully enclosed, so I'm not really concerned about how the back of this looks right here because it's going to be the inside of this little tray. But I'm going to go ahead and glue all the way around the edge here so I can go ahead and place it down on top of all of the wooden beads. And I've gone ahead and glued the back of the wooden slats really well to make sure they're not going to come out or anything. So here we go. I'm moment of truth. I'm going to turn it over. And you have just a little bit of time to kind of get it all straightened out, everything like that. And I decide I want it off the ground, so I'm going to add a couple beads for feet onto the bottom. So I just glue a couple of those. I kind of played around with where I wanted them positioned, and this was the spot that I felt worked the best with the look I wanted from the side, like the profile view, if that makes sense. So we're going to take this outside, and I'm using my Rust-Oleum chalk paint, spray paint, and I'm just going to give this, I spray it twice is what I do, and just making sure that you get the top really well on those jumbo popsicle sticks, and then also in between each of the beads. So it takes a little bit to get your coats on there as evenly as you need to, but do it twice, take your time, and do a really good job. And then, of course, you know me, I distress everything. So if you like it just plain, or you want to add it as a different color, you wanted to maybe keep frames gold, do it however you like to do it. But I'm just going in and lightly antiquing this. At Hobby Lobby, I've seen so many trays with the beads in between that do have that little bit of rustic look to in between them. So that was kind of what I was going for. I do go back over with a little bit of white to soften it, just so it, to me, the antiquing wax gives it a little bit of definition. So I use a combination of the antiquing wax and elephant. This way it makes the beads kind of pop a little bit rather than just blending in as one piece. So I like the dimension that it gives it. I hope that makes sense to you. I had an idea that I could take some scrapbook paper and cut it to size to put on the top. I thought this kind of made it look very summery, kind of very cheerful. You could change the paper out with the different seasons. I did not Mod Podge it down because I'm not 100% sure I'm going to leave it. You can see here what it looks like without the paper. It still looks really cute. So I thought that would be something kind of fun to be able to change up. You can see how I have it styled here with a couple of little plants. I think it's super fun. I'm excited to put it in my bathroom. I honestly think my grandma would be so happy that I was repurposing something of hers to use. So let me know down in the comments if you've seen these kind of trays and what you guys think of this one. For this DIY, I'm going to use a terracotta pot and then a lid off of one of the food saver containers from Dollar Tree. I am going to make a watermelon tray. Now, when I think of backyard barbecue, I love watermelon. And to me, no backyard barbecue is complete without watermelon. So all of my DIYs today are watermelon themed in the inspiration from a backyard barbecue. So some of these you could use as a centerpiece in a table at a backyard barbecue, or you could just have them in your home to bring that summertime feel in there. So after I get these glued together with some E6000 and some hot glue, I take them outside and just give them a really good coat of a green colored spray paint. This is just giving the base color, and then I'm going to paint a watermelon design on the top. So I just found anything I could. It happened to be this little glass tray from Dollar Tree to get a good shape of a circle on. And I do go around and I'm making like the watermelon rind here. So I leave the darker green on the outside and do a little bit of lighter green on the inside. Had I thought about this, I probably would have done this particular green line a little bit thinner, but it still looks good. You'll have to let me know what you think. So I just fill in the middle with some of the pink paint, and I'm just using acrylic paint for these, and I give that a really good coat for the center of my watermelon. And then after that, I'm going to go in and I'm going to create some little seeds on this. I think this would be perfect to set salt and pepper shaker on, a little floral display, something super cute. I don't believe this would be considered food safe, so I wouldn't put any food on it unless you put like a napkin or some tissue paper down on it. But I really think that this turned out so cute. To protect the paint job that I did, I am going to put a really good coat of Mod Podge all over, and so I do just lay some of that down and I go over all of the top of this, and then I even do the side edges of that scalloped edge on this lid to make sure that that paint is going to be absolutely protected from anything and it's not going to chip. Here's what it looks like after the Mod Podge dries. I think this just turned out so cute and absolutely darling. I think it is the perfect piece to bring that watermelon feel to your backyard barbecue. Let me know what you think of this piece down in the comments below. I thought it was super easy and super fun. I would like to thank you so much for taking time to watch this compilation mega video. It really means a lot to me. Did your favorite make the list? Did you see something new that you enjoyed? I would love to know down in the comments, either one of those. I always love reading what you guys enjoy seeing. I hope that you have such an amazing day, and I'll see you next time. Happy crafting! If you liked the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.